summit. I know we had a question about that a couple days ago. And sometimes, and most of the time, to be honest, women's summits are like days, right? Like we go to, I don't know, Punderson or somewhere, and you have tracks of speakers, and you have vendors, and you have activities and things like that. And so it's very hard to get people to commit to that, right? And we did, in the past, we always tried to have it on Mother's Day weekend, just because of the fact that we wanted you to bring your mom and take some time out, and that could be your Mother's Day gift or something like that. So this is our third year, right? Third year. Okay, so we generally do have it here at Stale Mansion. Last year we did it at a different venue. We're probably going to keep coming back to Carroll just because the other venue, it felt like we were very smushed. But with that spirit of being a summit, you know, when the speakers are speaking, obviously I want you to hear it. We are going to be recording it, so it will be there for you to look at in the future too, and I'll send you that link once all that gets done in a couple weeks. But with that in mind, I want you to also, you know, take time in the breaks, take time in between speakers. The restrooms are in the back. And there's water, coffee, and so on, or you can get a drink over there. And also make sure you visit the vendors. One of the things that we try to do with the vendors, I mean, we have from jewelry to the succulents, a realtor, Tupperware, Mary Kay, sourdough, torchlight, and then we also have a lady who is here on behalf of her daughter, and she's selling t-shirts, or sweatshirts rather, so that she can raise money so her daughter can go to France. And I was a single mom, so I kind of get that. And then, if you don't know, in the front we have both a massage to the left that you can sign up, and then there's also people do readings over to the right. And so kind of interactive, right? Kind of started like a workshop, and then you're going to hear some speakers, and then we're going to ask you for some feedback later too. But feel free to do that. And all of the vendors, as I'm saying, is they're usually women-owned. We purposely do that, okay? And it's all about women, supporting women and empowering women, and however we can do that. And sometimes we don't always get to do that. So it's a lot packed in. I know I said to 4 at first 3:30, so we do try to keep on time. It's never really on time, but you got to do whatever God calls you to do, right? That's my justification for this today. But with that being said, if again, feel free to get up. It is a summit, so there's a lot going on, and we'll start with our first speaker, and it's Laura Croce. And I've known Laura for some years, and we've actually become quite close. And I'm really happy that she's here to talk to you. And her topic is transition. Is that right? And I think that with COVID, I know we're not trying to always talk about that, with COVID and coming out of COVID, and for a lot of people, you see a lot of things transitioning, even if you decide to stay in your own job that you're currently in. And that's why I thought this will be a great topic. So I will let her continue to tell you about her, and I'm happy to have her. So thank you.
I know we had talked at our table about people that really inspire you, and I have to say, Pam, she is an amazing woman. I'm blessed to have her be a friend, a colleague. She is the real deal. That is the most giving, wonderful woman I've met. She empowers women to be all they can be, and just so grateful for her in my life. So I just want to say thank you, Pam. About today is the 4 seasons of life. We've all been in different seasons in our life, and sometimes, we think about like a season where we're raising our children, or a season when we're an empty nester. We can have different times in our lives that we go through some things in our lives, and some challenges, and some good things, and some not so good things. But there's 4 seasons in life that I'm only going to touch on a little bit, because I'm going to touch on the transition season mostly. One is the pruning season. A pruning season is when you go through some rough times. Just like a tree where, the suckers are pruned, it's not a fun time. It's very challenging. It can be very painful. It could be something, I would say, something that I had gone through recently was a pretty major car accident. That was a pruning season. where your season is disrupted, your life is disrupted, and you have no control over that. It could be an illness, it could be a death of a parent, something that really just kind of jolts you. Another season is a growing season, where maybe, you know, you've come through that pruning season, you've come through that challenge, and now it's like, what am I supposed to do after this point? Okay, I'm trying to go through this hurdle that I've gone through, but now what? Whether it's, you know, the loss of a spouse or a loved one, and your whole life has just been changed by it could be a tragic event, or, you know, something in life that just jolts you. Another season is the wilderness season. And that can be a season where you're very stuck. You're kind of like in a limbo stage, don't know where, you know, what direction like God is leading you or directing you in your life, and you're just kind of like a uncertain season, one where you're a little bit uncomfortable, not knowing where I'm heading, what direction. In that season, your faith is really tested in that season, because a lot of times we have goals and things that we think we'd like our life to be. You know, when I was a little girl, I envisioned my life to go a certain way. It has gone anything but that way. So when you think about those wilderness seasons, it's a time of it can be a time of loneliness. It could be a time of just figuring out, what do I want my life to look like, and how am I being directed, or what's the next step in my life? And then the final season is the harvest season. We all love the harvest season. That's where, you know, all the fruit comes in, and you think of like being a gardener. We plant, we prune, we grow, and then the fall usually is the harvest season, when all the crops come in. It could be in a business, it could be, you know, when you start getting the profits coming in your business, and you have the different stages in life. So a lot of times in life, we're either going into a trial, we're either in a trial, or we're coming out of a trial. So thinking about what kind of season that you are in your life. And I think about the most growth I've had in my life has been through those trials. It's, we're not promised an easy life. We all have challenges at times, but through the challenges is where the growth comes in. And I'm very strong in my faith, and that's where my foundation has always been. And whatever I do in my life, I really, I think about like a foundation is in a house. Your foundation is, if you're not building a house on a good solid foundation, the house will crumble, the walls will come down, you'll have issues. So I'm grateful that through my trials and through my seasons, I've been actually able to grow my faith. I've done a lot of different things in my life, and like I said, you know, I had a real plan when I was a little girl. I was gonna get married, I was gonna have the kids, the picket fence, everything, all, you know, where I wanted to be in business. I had it all mapped out and all planted, and it didn't happen that way. So I want to talk about, like, through the season right now, a growing season. I had just come out of a pruning season and a wilderness season. So now that I've gone in through the growing season, there can be excitement in a growing season. You're not knowing where you're headed, what you're doing. It could be a time where you're maybe moving a location. It could be a time where you're getting into a new relationship. It could be a time of maybe starting a business, or a retirement season, or an empty nester season. There's a lot of expectancy, and there's a lot of possibility. But through there can become a lot of fear. When we're in a comfort zone, we don't grow. And so being able to be pushed outside of your comfort zone is where the growth happens. And when we're in fear, fear stands for false evidence appearing real. a lot of times we want to stay stuck where we're at. We don't want to venture out. We don't want to try something new because we're comfortable in there, but we're not growing. And God wants us to grow. He wants us to be better today than we were yesterday and better tomorrow than we are today. So a lot of times we come up with these challenges. I think about, different times in my life, whether it's been a change in career, an ending of a relationship, all of that and starting something new, it can be very scary. But I think that if you can embrace the fear, feel the fear, and do it anyway, the possibilities and excitements of where your life can lead are amazing. So what's the struggle like? What is our mindset? We all want things to go easy. When you're in a mindset of fear, it can really keep you stuck. It can hold you back. So I want you to think about a time in your life where if you reflect back and think about, when have I had the most amount of growth in my life? And what did that look like? What did that season look like? Because when you're in it, there's a real struggle. But when you're able to get on the other side of it, that's where you see the blessings come in. And you know that you're close to the harvest. Through some of these seasons, we think about, well, I'm too old to start this business, or I've gone through, troubling relationships, or, I cannot possibly be able to do this upcoming event, or whatever it is going on in your life. When you think about pushing through that growth, I think about even, planting a seed, and when you see that the seeds start to pop up through the soil, and it's starting to grow, and it's starting to push. What about a butterfly that's in the cocoon? All of those changes, and it has to go through the caterpillar to become a butterfly. The growing in that cocoon, and then when that butterfly is able to come out, how beautiful it is. And so those are the seasons that we really think about where we've had the most amount of growth. And taking the time and to reflect and thinking about your mindset. Where was your mind? When I look at going through a trial and just being in a survival mode and just be able to get through this hurdle in my life, how coming on the other side is the victory. We've all been there. We've all had several trials in our lives. And it's not easy. But who is our tribe? Is our support team? Who are our girlfriends that we can count on, that we know will support us? My dad used to always say it's better to have 4 quarters than 100 pennies. So who are our quality people in our lives? Who are the ones that lift us up, encourage us, and help us through those times? In a time where your faith is being tested, it's a real surrender. And when we realize that we think we can have our lives totally in control and how we want them to be, and we look back and say, the biggest freedom I've had is when I've surrendered it, when I've realized I can't do this life on my own, I need help. That's when God has showed up in my life, and that's when I've had the biggest victory. But we think we can keep our lives in this little, I don't want this to go wrong, I don't want that to go wrong. We think we can control that. And the only thing that we have control over is ourselves. We can't control situations, we can't control other people. So when you're able to actually give that up and be able to welcome the blessings, and I think about some of the negative things that I had happen in my life, and I think about how can I turn that into a positive. Because when you are in those tough seasons, what's the takeaway? And rather than me saying, why God, why is this happening? I say, what lesson do you want me to learn? Because a lot of times with hardships, if we don't learn the lesson, we get an opportunity to relearn that lesson over again, and it's not always pleasant. It gets harder and harder and harder. I'd rather learn the lesson quickly and move on and move ahead. So being able to just take time and reflect and have gratitude and really be able to look at, okay, so if it's raining outside today, that could be a day where I could just say, I'll stay in my pajamas and I'll read a good book. And I'm grateful that I have this rain season right now because I'm able to stay at home and be able to enjoy a book. So whatever adversity comes to you, if you can think about the takeaway of how can I use this opportunity for a good thing in my life, it will just help you to change your mindset. If you get stuck in negativity, you're gonna see more negativity. If you have a lot of negative self-talk, you're not gonna get to where you wanna be. So I'm challenging you ladies to really start seeing the glass overflowing rather than half empty. And when you start to do that, you'll see the change in your life that you wanna create. If you focus on the positive and you talk positive, you're gonna see more positive things come in your life. So I wanna challenge you with that today, and I wanna thank you very much for your time. I know, Saturdays in the summer are a really precious time. And you ladies, the fact that you're here and you're open and receptive to grow, and we all love you. We are women to empower each other to be the best that we can be. So thank you very much.
Say hello.
Hi.
You're in my building.
Hi.
So at any rate, it's wonderful to see everybody here. I love these things that Pam does. They're awesome. We're a women-owned business. So we reorganized that. It started by our family, my husband and I, my son and my daughter, but now my daughter and I are the two principal people making the mansion come to life. So it's nice to see all of you here. Basically what you're in is an 1867 building. It's a Civil War building. It was a family home up until 1917. Then it was Lake Erie College property up until 1980. Then it was an apartment building until 2001. Then there was a fire. Then it sat here and turned into the Adams family house up until 2010 when I sent my husband to the grocery store. I said, dearest, I need stuff from the grocery. He doesn't like that. He says I put stuff on the grocery list that's not in any grocery store in the world. Then that's not true. But at any rate, so I sent him to the grocery store. Then he came home much later than I anticipated, doing the happy hubby dance, grin ear to ear, saying, here, I bought you the groceries. I also bought you a mansion. How did you do that? But at any rate, he had been driving past the owner. He managed to bump into the owner and made an offer that we couldn't refuse, and so we saw it on Sunday, owned it on Wednesday. And then all of this happened. It took 5 years of construction. We brought it back as a 16-room hotel and a party center. And basically what we did though is we did it right. I'd say 90% of the materials and the talent came from right here in Lake County. We are amazing. We've got to have better confidence in ourselves just being from this part of the world. We have more to offer than anybody else. Like I said, just the fact that all these things for this amazing place could come from right here, and the people that have the talent to do it. So it's been an amazing adventure for us, for our family, for my daughter and I. And if anybody wants to snoop around afterwards, you're more than welcome. We leave all of the guest rooms open for the rooms that are not occupied. Don't sit on the beds because cleaning ladies holler at me. But that's it. I mean, quite honestly, we've got a good business plan. Our staff is amazing. Working here at Steel Mansion brings out the best in everybody. We've got the best cleaning ladies. It's always clean. Our staff is friendly. We do events. We do, wedding stayovers, anything you can think of, corporate things. So enjoy looking around. Just remember, if you're still here at midnight, I make you book a room.
I've known Catherine for quite a while. We've gotten closer in time. We knew each other by acquaintances, and I don't know how many years it's been since. I don't know.
We're not gonna say.
Yeah, right. But she's definitely a delight, and I'll let her tell you her story. But I am proud to say that she is a commissioner in Ashtabula County, and was definitely an underdog in that, and she's been able to make a great difference. So with that, I'm honored to have you here today. Oh, I forgot her title. Her title is Leadership Unleashed.
Pam likes to put me in spots, and Nick, I'm gonna apologize like I do every year and just let you know I'm gonna walk. And I wander, I'm Italian, so I also, my hands will be moving a lot, so I apologize for that, but that's just who I am. So, I'm Catherine Whittington. I'm an Ashtabula County Commissioner. That was not my calling. My calling was to serve, but I am also a business owner of Boss Style LLC, and we'll get to how that came about a little later. I was a servant leader. I was to work for God's hands and protect our children. My story goes much further than that, though, in how my leadership over time unleashed unwillingly, unknowingly. In 2013, on October 9th, my life would change completely and be the start to a roller coaster of events, of twists, turns, journeys, chapters, whatever you'd like to call it. So October 9th, 2013, it was a beautiful sunny day. It was probably the last warm day in Northeast Ohio in Ashtabula County that we were gonna have. And I stood at the front door that day. We had just moved in to our home that we built 4 months prior. Boxes everywhere, and I thought, oh, I should stay home and unpack some of these boxes. Because I truly believe at that point my husband was tired of stepping over them because they were everywhere. I had one meeting that day, and I thought, oh, I could just cancel that meeting, stay home, and it'd all be good. But I decided to go because I was the host of that meeting, so it was gonna be logistically to reschedule it, just wasn't gonna happen. So around 9:30 a.m., I left for work. The police at that point think I actually passed the people that would be responsible for breaking into my home. You see, on October 9th, 2013, I became the largest burglary in Ashtabula County. 4 months in, I made it so easy for them. Everything was marked perfectly in boxes. TVs weren't connected because I moved to an area that didn't have internet. So everything was just, you could just pick it up and go. Look, oh, this is a silver tea set. Let's take that. Oh, this is the china. Oh, these are your pots and pans. We'll take those too. Closets, took clothes, purses, anything that they could get their hands on, they took. We believe they were in our home about 3.5 to 4 hours. Wow. We do believe that my daughter calling home and leaving a message on the answering machine is what actually got them out of the house. Mom, are you home? Have you gotten there yet? Was her message. So, about 3:15 that afternoon, my 11-year-old son got off the bus to a house that had been broken into. They kicked in my back doors, took everything. And when I say everything, I really was left with nothing. I left my iPad behind that day, which would come to be the clues would unfold through my iPad. So we called the police. I left Children's Services. I actually pulled in behind the officer who had driven 55 minutes. We are the largest county in the state of Ohio, geographically, 702 square miles. So I pulled in, and I was just like, I don't know. I was just amazed that this had happened to us. I was amazed at how easy I had made it for them. All I kept thinking is, listen, Lazy, if you had just put stuff where it belonged, they probably wouldn't have taken the boxes. I mean, think about it. All the boxes are sitting there and labeled because I have a little bit of OCD. So everything was perfectly, every item. Don't ever do that. Don't put how much of everything you have in those boxes. But I truly think the thing that made me the most angry was, and people always ask, well, you were violated. They took my cake decorating stuff. You laugh, and that, I was so mad about that. My husband is a gun collector, so he was upset that they took guns. I was mad they took my cake decorating stuff. I had years and years built up my cake decorating supplies, and in one pick of a box, all that went away. Was it something I focused on? Probably. Was it really what made me upset about the burglary? I don't know, but I'm still upset about that to this day. So, with that, I love our sheriff's department. Our law enforcement is excellent. But I thought for months that I was a detective. Have you ever watched CSI? Yeah, so that was me. I became a detective. Turns out that I would give leads to many of the police that were working on it. I would call them almost daily. Hey, guess what? I found this person. They're connected to this person. Do you think they might be connected to? So it turns out it was a ring of 13 addicts. We recovered one gun, no cake decorating stuff. None of my jewelry. Most of my jewelry was from Italy from my grandmother, so none of that can be replaced. It was a clean slate, but I worked diligently. My husband will tell you it's the day I changed. I always ask, how did I change? How did I change? He said, you just did. You're a different person. Not in a bad way, you're just different. So, as time went on, and I realized that our community had some issues, I did what I thought you should do, and that was go see your local leadership and talk to them about the issue that not only I faced. I didn't have complaints about how things were handled. What I had was, how can I help? How can I help restore our community? Because as I was talking to people, this was a common occurrence. When I went to the jewelry store to get the print-offs from the jewelry that had been bought for me by my husband, and as I went to all these stores to recoup some of these receipts that they took the box of those, by the way, just, your personal file, all that gone. So, as I started this became a common theme. I was not unique. I was not alone. There were a lot of people who had been burglarized. So I went to my local leader, who I sat in her office for 5 minutes. And I said, we have a problem. We have a drug problem. We have a jail issue. We have a problem. She looked at me and she said, I'm offended that you came into my office and accused me of not taking care of the community. I said, oh, that's not what I said. Not at all. How can I help? Where can I be helpful? So she dismissed me. I left, and I thought, that's really not how local leadership should be. Not at all. So I continued to work my case. I have a blue binder. My husband said to me yesterday, he was on the phone, and somebody had been burglarized just a few streets over. And they had mentioned a name, and he said, "Do you know who that person is?" I said, "Hold on." And I went over to the cabinet and I got my blue binder out. I shouldn't have that blue binder still. I changed. Me and that blue binder went everywhere. They went to work every day. It still is in my hutch in my kitchen. And I was able to go. I'm like, yeah, do you want to know where it lives? I got it. Here you go. So the day I changed, local leadership needed changed. Never political, never wanted to be a politician. Did my due diligence as a voter, looked up candidates, voted appropriately. And somebody said, "There's a commissioner seat available, you should run." And I was like, no, that's not me. I'm not political. No, you should run. You could really make a difference. And I was like, I don't know. It's a lot. Well, I spoke to the local party and I just wasn't the chosen one. I wasn't someone that they felt could win an election. I was like, oh, so you're telling me no? And they couldn't really say that. So what they said was, well, you're a third tier candidate. And I was like, oh, that's probably not good. Third tier candidate, I'm pretty sure you want to be a first. Third doesn't seem like that's gonna sit real well. So I left that meeting and I was driving home and I was talking to a friend of mine, he's a police officer, and he said, "You know, Catherine, anybody can be a commissioner." Anybody? Okay, I'm a third tier, anybody can be it. Why not me? So I went home, I said to my husband, I said, "I'm gonna run for county commissioner." He's like, "You go." I said, okay. So I'm pretty sure in his wildest dreams, that was not part of the plan. So I went to work the next day. I walked in and I sat down with my supervisor and the executive director, and I said, "I'm gonna run for office. I'd like you to sign the waiver so I can keep my job." She said, "No, you'll have to give your notice. We don't participate in keeping employees that are running for public office." Okay. So I did what anybody would do, or what I thought I should do, and I went back to my office and I typed up my resignation notice. I walked into her office, I said, "Here's my 2 weeks, thank you very much." I also didn't do the math very well because I gave notice and the election was 18 months away. But I had to focus on that because remember, I was a third tier candidate. So, sitting at home, my husband comes in, we're on the front porch just having a very nice conversation. "I quit my job today. I'm gonna run for office, it's official. I've made the call, they're not happy, but I'm gonna run." He looks at me and he goes, "Oh, that's great, honey, does it pay?" I don't know. I pulled my phone out, I'm texting people. I quit my job to run for an office that I didn't know if I was getting a paycheck for. Because that's truly how much I believed that change needed to happen. It wasn't gonna matter if I was gonna collect a paycheck. I'm sure he was hoping I was gonna collect one. So I started this 18-month campaign. I cried a lot. I knocked 10,000 doors. I worked hard. And I told my story. And I said, I want to make a difference. I want to get our community healthy. I want to work on the addiction issue. I want to get our community healthy. I want people to be able to go back to work. We have a workforce issue. And this was prior to COVID. This was in 2016. So this had nothing to do, we were having workforce issues then because we were having addiction issues. So I ran, your third tier candidate, unseated a 12-year incumbent by 7 points. So it wasn't a small win. And I started my journey. And one of the first things I did in that seat is look to figure out what type of leader I was. I had been a manager, I had a team. I never really thought of myself as a leader, but everybody kept calling me one. Well, you're a leader now. I was like, okay. I'm a commissioner. Well, you're leading. So what does that mean? What does it mean to lead? Anyone, what does it mean to lead? To be a leader?
To set examples.
To set examples. Pardon me? To make decisions.
Instill confidence.
Instill confidence. Leadership is never about you. It's about the people and your team. It's never about you. It's not about rank. It's not about achieving a level. So there are leaders that are up here, that are in authority positions. But are they leaders? Are they leading their team to success? Are they empowering them? Are they saying, good morning, job well done? I can't be successful in carrying out visions without a team that is empowered and appreciative of helping make a vision come true. They want to help. They want that success. Because for them, they're right there with you. Because again, it's not about you. It's about the team. It's about the vision. And it's about how you bring it together. This was a very hard lesson for me. I did a lot of self-reflection because when I ran, I was a team of one. That was it. It was just me. So I ran a campaign all by myself. I bought a book and ran a campaign. So I thought I was going to buy a book and run a county, and that's not how that goes. I was fortunate to walk into an office that had an incredible team in place. My team is amazing. I empower them to be able to make decisions because not every decision has to be made by me and shouldn't be made by me. Vision shouldn't be all me. It should be the team. What do you want to see? How can we make it happen? It's about us, it's not about me. So as this all unfolded, in 2017, Asheville County was the first county to file suit against the manufacturers and distributors of opiates. That was my vision. 6-7 months later, we dropped our lawsuit, joined the state lawsuit, and we became part of Ohio's lawsuit against the manufacturers and distributors. I didn't ever think we would see settlement while I was in office. And in 2022, state of Ohio won one of the largest settlements, $808 million. That money will be flowing back to communities, already has started. It started in 23, so monies have started to flow. There are specific uses for it. It is to abate the drug epidemic. That is a very wide brush. With that opiate settlement money, I was chosen to be the chair of One Ohio Foundation, which was going to be the mechanism to distribute 55% of those dollars. Again, I was placed in a position to where I needed to lead. But what am I leading? A 29-member board, which, by the way, should never exist anywhere. If anybody's ever been on a board of directors, 29 is too many. Too many. What I thought I was walking into was an organization that was already stood up. It was not. That was my charge, was to get this board of directors to build out the infrastructure. So again, I had to go back. What type of leader? What was our vision? Was it everybody's vision? How are we going to do this? So empower, inspire, and lead was what I set out to do. And with that, in January of last year, we were on track to get our 501c3. I stood up the organization with 29 other board members. I'm proud to say I've written policies, we put the infrastructure in place for all that money to flow back to you. I then was charged with setting up our regional board as well. I find myself in these roles because I think, and I'm not missing meetings. Because you know, on PTO, if you miss a meeting, you're now the head of PTO. You all know how that works. So in the midst of everything, my stepson overdoses. 45 days later, my son overdoses. I am now, for 7 years, raising 3 little girls. My son is still missing. Their mother is still an addict. My stepson is clean and sober and doing fantastic. So we have success. But again, I'm leading 3 little, I was a boy mom. I heard the giggles back there. Yes, I am now a girl mom, and that is tough. Tough. It comes with challenges as an elected official, finding work balance. So I was sitting in my chair drinking coffee one day, because I don't have enough to do, and I thought, what are these girls going to do in this world? What is going to be their safeguard to always protect them and be able to care for themselves? Because when I got them, they were 4, 3, and 1. Oh, wow. And the 4-year-old had been the mom and had been the caretaker. We need to build and inspire our young people to bring out the leadership in them, because everyone has it. It's just, how do you nurture it? How do you grow it? And listen, I'm in Northeast Ohio. I am in every season, every day. Like, I'm pruning, I'm cutting, I'm growing, I'm wilderness. I can't catch a break. There's gotta be planting, anything. I'm in it. So I'm living every season, every day, all day long. So I created a company. I thought, well, I'll just create a company. I'll give them a company, they can build it, they can do what they want. They like to make jewelry. I thought, oh, they'll do this. They want to make t-shirts, oh, we'll do this. So I have this shop in my basement now that has anything and everything you would like to possibly create. You can do it in my basement. So I created Boss Style LLC for them. What we didn't think it was going to actually turn into a multi-level company. We're starting our leadership process. There's going to be classes offered. There's going to be podcasts. There's books on there already. There's going to be a whole leadership section to Boss Style. That eventually, as we grow these 3 young girls, that they will take over that. In the meantime, they're making t-shirts and candle wax. They're melting candles, doing all that in the basement, and they're living their best life with that. So as a business owner, also my husband is a business owner. I run the whole financial end of that company. You're shaking your head. My husband says that. So I'm actually going to do a change of clothing before I leave, because I have a political event that I will be leaving straight from here and going to. This morning I was actually baking cookies for the Girl Scout troop to get those dropped off. Oh yeah, I'm a Girl Scout leader. Don't ask how that happened. So, always be growing, always be leading, but when you lead, you need to not focus on you. You need to focus on you to be able to lead your team and to grow your team. Every day, I go to each one of my employees and I say, how are you today? How can I help you? Is there anything you need from me today? Never be afraid to ask. And always check in on your employees. You never know when they're struggling with a project. They may be afraid to ask because many of us in roles of management have been taught, don't ask questions. Find the answer. Bad advice. Ask. Ask for help. It's okay. As women, we're taught also, you need to be strong. You need to be confident. You can be all those and still ask a question. Always check in on your people. Empower, inspire, and lead. Thank you. Leadership Unleashed will be released September 10th, so please be watching for that. It is the first book I've done on my own. I've been a co-author with Pam and 7 other books, but Leadership Unleashed will be released September 10th, so thank you.
It was interesting to me, and I don't know if you know this, but it always stuck with me because she was part of a panel that was, I had applied to be in a leadership organization, and she applied on the panel. And she told me later, one of the reasons that she chose me to be a part of this group was because she saw the potential, because I didn't have the, I wasn't really confident. And I was like, nobody says that, nobody sees that. And I just, obviously lots changed. But part of that is because of you. And you don't know the inspiration you are.
Thank you.
And no longer a trustee. Again, she's had a little bit of a political realm, but she's still very active, and her title is Social Media, Don't Be a Creep. And so I'll let her tell you a little bit about her story and why that is, but again, her story, you're going to talk about.
I am.
All right, good.
I am.
Like, everybody wants to hear that.
And it's the first time. So I chaired the committee that takes women in to a very high level, high pressure leadership program across the state of Ohio. We take about 20 women a year. I had chaired that for 12 years, and Pam was just, like, I don't even know why I'm here, but I think I can do this. And we always tried to take women that could really make a difference. And has she ever? So, and our goal is to bring in women who can help women. And it's interesting. I've written a couple of books on everyday women in business and leadership. I'm not going to talk about any of that today. Dr. Jessie did a really nice job of talking about how networking is important, and I can tell you in all of my years, I'm 65 years old, by the way. I have shoes older than some of you folks in here. But relationships are everything. We cannot do this ourselves. And women network better than anyone. We understand how to help each other and how to raise each other up and make each other better. There's 2 different kinds of women, and we all know who they are, and they're all around us. We all know. There are women who understand that a rising tide raises all ships, and you try to surround yourself with women who are smarter than you are, who are more successful than you are, and all come up together. And then there's other women who think the only way they can be here is if they keep other people down there. Yeah. Kick them to the curb. You can do it politely. Just ignore them, walk away. You do not need those people in your life. It took me a long time to figure that out. I wish somebody had given me that little gem earlier in my life. Social media, don't be a creep. Isn't that fun? You have absolutely no idea what I'm going to talk about, do you? And this is the first time I've ever done this one, so I brought notes because I can so go rogue on this, and I've never used notes, but I could tell you some stories, and oh, you're gonna hear one. I'm gonna tell you some things that happened to me, and you're gonna say in your head, I don't even care if you say it out loud, you're gonna say, oh my God, so much that you're gonna think you're in a revival meeting. I never, well, first of all, I need to tell you, I've had to follow this one before. I am so glad I'm not talking about leadership today, because isn't Catherine awesome?
Yes.
And Laura, the seasons, oh honey, I could give you some more. You're gonna hear about a few of those, but she's right, we grow, we learn, we grow. I was raised a really different way, and this is gonna be a stretch for most people who know me, but I was raised in an old order Mennonite environment. If you know anything about old order Mennonites, you're not a member of the church until you marry in the church, and the girls are expected to marry in the church when they're the age of 15. That was not gonna happen. So you have to leave the settlement. The Mennonite family was not my biological family. My biological mother was a naval officer. So at the age of 15, I kind of got reacquainted with her, and so I was basically on my own. Social media wasn't a thing then, so I didn't run into those issues until later in life, but I wasn't real prepared for snarkiness and mean comments. I wasn't prepared to watch my life as a bystander. Have you ever had something so crazy happen to you that you just can't believe it's really happening to you, and you're just kind of watching it and you feel like you're somewhere hovering over it? How many of you have been what you feel like have been bullied online? Have you seen people being bullied online? Have you ever caught yourself starting to make a little comment, like maybe about a politician or a celebrity that you think is funny, and then you catch yourself and say, yeah, that's really not nice? I used to do that all the time, and I catch myself now. Do you know how often people, we have become a culture that just gives people the finger through a keyboard every day, and sometimes you don't even realize you're doing it. And I'm the last person I ever thought that would be talking to anyone about social media. I was raised in a faith where we were taught to always look for the good and the bad. Nothing is ever so bad that there's not something good about it. There is never an adversity that is so bad that there's not an opportunity to make something good out of it. And I was taught to never feel sorry for myself. I was raised to have a servant's heart and servant's hands. So when there was an opportunity for me to become a township trustee in my township, I did that. And I served in that role for 24 years. But as a child, I was always poised to anticipate pain. That's why I was taken away from my biological family and raised by the Mennonite family. So I was raised with some very, very good survivorship tools. Have you seen that happen? People who just know when to stay away from this, know when to stay away from that. Well, somewhere along the line, I kept my coping skills, but I kind of missed some of those protective skills. And I didn't really understand the impact social media could have. And I'm going to ask you by raising your hands, because this is interactive stuff. Social media can be good, can be bad. It can be both. How many think it's pretty much good? How many think it's pretty much bad? How many think it's both, depending on how it's used? That's where we all come in. People do bad things on social media. Our kids learn to do bad things on social media, usually by seeing what the parents are doing in the neighborhood groups. And we don't realize that we're teaching that culture. We just don't realize that we can do better. It's just so easy to make a comment. I was looking at my local neighborhood page this morning, and somebody posted that she's clapping to our fire department. She had a battery that was going bad in a smoke detector. Thank you. And it was making her dogs crazy. She couldn't get to it, I'm sure. I know this woman, she's an older woman, she should not be on a ladder, I should not be on a ladder. And so she called the fire department, he came up and fixed it, and she was giving him a shout out. And somebody else, being a creep, gets on and says, really, you called the fire department for that? You know, you wasted their time, and then the dialogue starts. And it's good people. It's good people. It's people you know, your neighbors, you've seen it, right?
Yeah.
Stop that. It's bad stuff. And that's what we're teaching our kids to do. So anyway, at the age of 17, I've got a full-time job. I'm going to school. I graduated early. I did my undergrad work at the University of Akron. I got a master's program completed at Kent State in the CPAT program for public administration and public policy. I got married. My husband is a pretty well-known death penalty attorney throughout the state of Ohio. I am living the dream, right? I have a great life. You know, I drive a nice car, I have a good business, I'm a township trustee, I'm working in my church, working with the kids. I had a great life, right? One of the guys that I worked with is a township trustee. We all go to a Christmas party in December of 2016. And during that Christmas party, he's walking around trying to find somebody to go see the opening scene, or the opening night of the Star Wars movie. December of 2016. You're smiling, you like Star Wars, don't you? I don't go to Star Wars movies. I didn't even know what a movie theater was until I was 20 years old. So he can't get anybody to go with him on that short of notice. And the other trustee that I work with finally said, you know, I don't really want to go, but I'll go. So I go home with my husband about 9 o'clock at night, and the two guys go to the movies. And they get home about midnight, according to all of the police reports that come later. Because the next morning at 7:30 in the morning, I get a phone call. You gotta get down to the township hall, there is blood everywhere. There's your first, oh my God. There's blood everywhere. And we can't find Brian. Brian and Mike are the two other trustees that I work with. Long and short of it, Brian's missing for about 2 months.
Oh my God.
There's smeared blood all over the walls. There's a big pile of blood on the conference room floor. There's the Sheriff's Department, the Bureau of Criminal Investigation, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, because Brian was a Marine veteran who was also involved in hand-to-hand combat training, special ops for extraction from foreign countries of prisoners. So they thought that maybe there was something to do with that. Mike and I knew that Brian was in financial trouble. He had been getting credit collection calls at the township hall. So much so that 7 months earlier, I had even offered him a loan to get him through until Christmas. He was a jewelry salesman. It made sense that, you know, his busy time was Christmas. Thank God he did not take my offer, because I'd have never gotten it back, because you will not believe what happened next. So Mike and I, the other trustee that went to the movies with him, and I are very concerned that we think the Sheriff's Department's not as serious about this case as we think they should be. They just don't seem to be concerned about Brian's safety. We're pretty sure he's been abducted and all of these things, but then they started telling us things, little things that shocked us. This is a guy that we knew. I mean, Brian and I were far more than colleagues. We were friends. We were good friends. His family hung out at my house. My husband and I have a big farm. We have one of the largest farms in the county, and we have a produce stand. A lot of the kids work there. Brian's kids work there. His family used to make Easter baskets and bring them to us. You know, Brian would pick up extra vegetables at night and make big dinners and bring stuff to Ed and I, my husband and I. I mean, we were close. We did things together. If you go back through, I have never changed it. My Facebook pages from before any of this happened, it's like every third picture is me and his kids. You know, we were close. And Mike and I were terribly upset. And then the Sheriff's Department starts telling us things like, well, the scene was staged. We found the bottle where the blood was mixed and applied to the walls. It was smeared onto the walls. They do a press conference that no one was involved in this but Brian. He did it himself. Then they tell us that he was being investigated. Here's another, oh my God, $4.5 million of credit card fraud. How does somebody do that? I can't even fathom that number. I mean, how do you do that? The press is camped out at our homes. The press is camped out at the township hall. They're asking all of these questions. And Mike and I are still trying to process what we're learning, the things that we're finding out, the travel that he was doing that he had not told us the truth about. He would not come to meetings and tell us he was someplace, and we find out that, well, according to phone records, that's not where he was, or according to plane records, that's not where he was. And they're constantly interviewing us, law enforcement, asking us, well, what about this, what about this, what about this? The deceptions were beyond anything we could have imagined. But we didn't talk about it. Mike and I didn't talk about it publicly. Maybe that was a good decision, maybe it was a bad decision, but I'll tell you the reason we didn't. Brian had 3 little girls. 3 little girls, still in elementary school. And those kids were victims no matter what happened. And so we were not gonna besmirch their father, because he was their dad and he was their hero and he always would be, and to this day I wouldn't have changed that. You know, I am so fortunate that I worked with a man who had the same kind of faith and understanding that I did. Mike and I agreed we were gonna do that. Yeah, maybe it wasn't the best idea for some reasons, and that comes next. 2 years later, cases go, Brian's body, by the way, was found floating in Chippewa Lake. It was all over the news. It was all over Channel 3, 5, 8. They were all camped out. 2 months later, his body was found floating in the lake. The Sheriff's Department has opined that he either took his own life because of everything that was happening, and they suspect that he thought that he would be going to jail for a long time, or the other alternative, and the coroner, I think, believes this more than that, according to the reports, and the reports are public, I've read them all, that he was trying to disappear and make it look like he was abducted. And because he had cut himself, he had 6 bloodletting wounds, which later on were described as stab wounds. We'll get to that. They weren't stab wounds, they were bloodletting wounds. The hypothermia might have set in faster than he expected that it would. He never made it to where he was walking to get picked up or whatever. There's an inlet at the lake, and it appears that he passed out and died there. And 2 months later, when the spring thaw came and the inlet raised, which it usually does about 3 feet every year, that washed him into the lake. Body was found by a kayaker. That was just a whole nother mess.
I'll be right now.
Brian's family, yeah, Brian, you know, I have, you know, one of the things that God has blessed me with is a great sense of humor, because none of this is funny, and it gets far worse. And here we go, it gets far worse. Some folks that Brian went to school with, and his family, became very angry that the prosecutor did a press conference saying that no one was responsible for Brian's death but Brian himself. And so they started a Facebook page.
Here we go.
And in their Facebook page, they took little shreds of truth and added things that weren't true. They would do things like, so my family, every 10th mailbox in 2 townships is my family. I've got 8 brothers and 5 sisters. And the Nexus Pipeline, does anybody know what the Nexus Pipeline is? It's in like 5 states, it's 200 and some miles, and it came through 5 townships in Medina County. It's a federal project. Townships had nothing to do with it, but they looked for large parcels of property. So guess what? They came across the southern boundary of our farm. Now there's thousands and thousands of Nexus Pipeline easements, but one of them's on our farm. And because the Nexus was controversial, which is true, and it's on our farm, the fact that I got it moved onto our farm so my family could benefit, that must be true. Wow. They would put that out there. I went to the county commissioners and asked the county commissioners to donate some land to my township for a new fire station. We raised $4.5 million for a fire station. We needed a site. They donated the land. I'm a real estate broker. I own a real estate company. So because I own a real estate company, and that's true, I must have made a lot of money off of this donation. There's no money that changes hands on a donation. Catherine, help me here. Can the commissioners sell a piece of land without disclosing the whole? No, of course not.
No,
But-
it's a very long process,
Yeah.
and we don't like to sell stuff.
But these are the threads that they would weave. Well, Mike and I started getting threatening letters. We started getting threatening texts. I started getting messages, things like, what takes 21 minutes in Drug Mart? Why are you driving the BMW today? I hope this isn't your last ride today. Coming for you first, you scum-sucking whore.
Oh
my
God.
So my husband hires security. I can't go to meetings without my security. I can't go to anything without my security. The police chief, I live in a rural area and we're covered by a police contract. The police chief in a nearby city tells me, Linda, do not leave your home without a weapon. Some of the people that they've been trying to figure out who's doing this are not good folks. And I will tell you, the one that was the worst, I was sitting downtown Medina at a red light, and it was obvious to me that whoever was texting me and making threats to me was able to see me where I was, so I drove straight to the police department. This guy is so dumb that his text message had his photograph on it. and
Thank you.
Not the brightest bulb. And although he was using an alias, apparently they can check the photo and they found this guy was on parole. He's on parole. He was out at the time. He's on parole for aggravated assault, felonious assault, kidnapping, burglary.
He's a nice guy.
And he's after me. And he tells them that the reason he's after me is because everything he was reading on social media, he was not going to let me get away with what I had done. I mean, and so my husband's an attorney, so we have friends who are attorneys who can look into this stuff. And none of these people who are posting things, they're not worth suing because they got nothing for the most part. But I was amazed when they did the investigation to find out who some of these people are. One of them is a math professor at John Carroll University in Cleveland. A math professor. Just making little comments. Well, I saw this, and if you read this in the report, and she's that, and this probably happened because of that. And they just put all sorts of stuff together. There's two guys that did a podcast, and they're just farmers from Wayne County, the next county down. They don't have any reporting background, any investigative skills, but they do a podcast. Well, when they got called on the carpet for some of the stuff they were saying in the podcast, one of my employees who works at the farm said, Linda, my kids told me I can't work for you anymore because they're listening to the podcast where she works at work at Cleveland Metro on third shift, and they listen to this every night, and you're dangerous. They don't want me around you because you're dangerous. I'm Betty Cracker. I bake bread, I bake cookies, I do visitation to my seniors. I've been a trustee for 24 years. I'm Betty Cracker. And now all of a sudden, I don't know, Matahari, Carilla DeVille, I know you take your pick. And I look at these folks, one of them's a real estate agent from North Royalton. I don't know any of these people. They don't know me. But they're just, somebody wrote this, so apparently that's a fact, and then they run with it, and then they add something else to it. So, well, she did this, so she must have done this. These posts got so creative that I was actually found myself looking forward to reading what came next to see what I did next. They were so, and I'm looking at this so, God, don't be a creep. You people, don't be a creep. And I said that so often. The guys on the podcast, when they were interviewed, because there's a book coming out. I'm not into it, but there's a book coming out. When they were interviewed, the guys on the podcast said, oh no, we never pointed any fingers. We never said anybody was a murderer. We never said anybody was murdered. And the guy doing the book, he says, the name of your podcast is Murder Lake. Do you think maybe you kind of set an idea up there? I mean, it's just crazy. On the podcast, The Surveillance Expert, they had a guy that they interviewed for about an hour. He was an expert on surveillance equipment. There was a video from a local little store that their surveillance equipment shot the township parking lot where you go in and out. So on that equipment, they were able to see that Brian's car had gone into the parking lot at about somewhere after 1 in the morning and had left somewhere after 6 in the morning, and that no other vehicle had come in or gone out but his. And it's a motion activated video. Keywords: motion activated surveillance. This guy made a big, huge theory about how the video had to have been tampered with because there was large gaps of information. And I'm like, how could have, and I'm talking to the BCI investigator, and I was like, how could he screw that up? And he says, well, he's a sandwich maker at Subway. Pretty sure he's not really a video expert. But that's the kind of stuff that was going on, and it's all over social media. Now, my family reads this, my grandchildren read this, people that I work with reads this, my agents in my company, I'm a real estate broker and I have a number of agents. It was a tough time. It was a really tough time. Caused a lot of problems. But I have a strong faith. And remember, I was taught, look for the good and the bad, look for the opportunity and adversity. And, this is what I talked to Pam about. I said, Pam, if I'm gonna come down and talk this time, I wanna talk about social media, not being a creep, because guess what? That's my new calling. Because another thing, a very poignant thing happened to me. And I never thought about it until I connected the two. And I think God puts you exactly where you're supposed to be. And yet, and when He delivers a job to you, you gotta do it. I have a friend whose 16-year-old son took a 12-gauge shotgun and killed himself. And I couldn't understand what could possibly be so bad that a 16-year-old boy would take his life. And he was being bullied by social media, and my friends are good parents, great parents. But it was right when social media was coming around and we didn't know the damage that it could do and the bad ways it could be used. And they're telling, sticks and stones, it's just words. It's not just words. It's not just words. And I didn't understand it until it happened to me. I'm an adult. I have an excellent education. I have an excellent support system. I have great coping skills. I have resources to protect myself. What does a 16-year-old kid have? We need to do better. We need to do better, and we need to talk better to our kids. We need to watch what they're doing. And in those innocent little comments, they're not so innocent if you're on the receiving end. They're just not. And I catch myself doing this, especially about politics. And oh, by the way, I ran for re-election and lost. I lost by 95 votes. In my rural area, we have one big subdivision that's about 6 years old that captures about a third of our vote. And this group of people from outside of my township went door to door and told people that I was under investigation for murder. But I only lost by 95 votes, and we're a township of about 8,000, so not so bad. Not so bad. And quite frankly, I love being out of office. You do something for 24 years, you don't know how much stress it is until it's gone. And my husband's real happy about that. But pay attention, be careful, be aware of what, like I said, I would catch myself, especially in politics. It's like, want to make fun of the president, or you want to make fun of, your county elected officials or whatever, because that's never happened to you, has it? Never. It's just not necessary. If it's not uplifting, if it's not good information, it's not necessary. We can do better, and it starts changing a little bit at a time, just one of us at a time. And on communications, especially digital communications and stuff like that, one of the other women who is in the group that Pam and I and Catherine are in, her name's Tia Ramey. She runs Tia Ramey Communications out of Columbus. She's got a Facebook page and she's got a podcast where she talks about empowering women to tell your story and to talk about that adversity and to talk about the opportunities that have come out of it. And she has, they're very small, they're like 15, sometimes 10 minutes a piece. It's excellent information. If you've ever got some time to blow off, take a listen to this girl. She really does a nice job of giving us little gems of good information to help each other out and move down the road just a little bit nicer. Thanks for your time.
Like some good stuff in your bag, actually. There's some gift certificates. There's Morris Chiropractor usually comes and they weren't able to, so there's a Mother's Day gift certificate for you, and I think it's like a couple $100. And there's some really good, like I said, good stuff in there. The one thing that's in the gift bag, though, that I want you to know, a lot of the stuff's in there, but the one thing, there is a magic wand in there, and that kind of goes with that anything is possible, right? So we've talked about a lot of times, some of the ladies have gone through a lot of different transitions and different things, and that's kind of where things are at in my life as well right now. And I think that it's important to recognize not just every season or as we go through things or other people can kind of throw things off and make a life-changing event. One of the things with Best Version You, and some of you have already heard this, but the reason I started it is because I want everybody that I come in contact with, I want you to be the best you. And that's different, right? Because some people, maybe it's time for you to change a job, maybe it's time to not change a job, but inside you have to feel content with who you are. The other thing is that with Best Version of You, it has been growing. There's ladies that are affiliate coaches, if you will, and I know that if you need somebody to help you get through a trouble or just that change or understand, I might not always be the right fit, just like the whole lawyer thing, right? But there are ladies that are within this network and within that tribe that can make you do that. So again, with Best Version You, some of you might know, so I'll do the short version. It was something that was kind of started in COVID. I started it online, and online there's a very strong sense of community with a lot of ladies that I had. We would do virtual summits, because back then that's what you did, right? And there'd be 500 and some people there. And I know, I think even Linda had mentioned, there's the people that put you down, and then there's the people that are going to support you. Life is way too short, and you need to be happy right where you're at today. And if there's somebody putting you down, I mean, those of you who've known me for a couple years, I am not the person I used to be. I'm just not going to deal with it. And, again, life's too short, and I might not be the right fit for you, and I don't take it personal because I can't make everybody happy. And as soon as you realize who you are, and that's what you want to be around, you're only going to grow. Because God's going to put the right people in your life. So don't think you're going to be all by yourself if you shut off a group of friends or something like that. And all the ladies that spoke, I mean, I've known them for a while, and our stories continue to change. And so, when I didn't know what to title it, because I kind of see what I'm supposed to talk about when God gives me that calling or whatever. But the one thing is that I do want you to think anything's possible. So the dreams that are put on my heart are going to be different than the dreams put on your heart or on your heart. That's where it starts, right? And sometimes we have that support staff to navigate. I hope that whoever's around you or who you're with, you continue to change and evolve. Those people don't always come with you, and that's okay too. But you have to care about yourself the best. And when I say, I want you to support all these vendors because they're women, I truly mean that. Because I guess I was. Look, I said I was. But I still am a woman lawyer. Came so naturally. But this is what, these are things, and I know she has this little thing. Self-confidence is the most important element of true beauty. Robert Jones. I thought Mary Kay said it, but but all those little things are uplifting things you can do when you see somebody. That's what's important, and that's what makes the difference. And I just think that when you find people, there's more people that have gone through tragedy. And one of the reasons I think the same with Catherine is we keep getting sucked into writing all these books is because there's another group of ladies that can use that to be inspired. And I too have a couple of my own books coming out, and I have a couple more anthologies this year. And I want to make another one with Best Version of You or with people that I kind of rally around. So if you're interested in doing that, but everybody's story is different. So if I sat down and I had a one-on-one with Renee and she told me the worst times in her life.
I have.
But most of the time you can still identify with that, right? And just sometimes knowing somebody else went through that is helpful. So it starts out very small, but I think that you can live your best life. I mean, again, I'm human, so I struggle with that myself. And those, again, that are closer to me know the whole transition for me. But moving forward to follow your dreams is so important. A couple of you, and I'm just gonna bring this up real quick, a couple of you mentioned, because maybe you haven't physically seen me in a while, that I've lost some weight. Yes, this is true. But one, I'm not where I wanna be, but one of the reasons is because, I don't get emotional, but both of my grandmas lived to their 90s. And one day I was like, I'm never gonna get to see my grandson, hopefully I have more grandchildren, but you can't, for me, I can't be in the body that I used to have. I mean, I've been working on my leg, I can see it like now because I walk so many steps and I'm like, nope, it's not hurting, it's not hurting. But for me, that's a component that I have to work on. And some people don't, right? For me, I need body, mind, and soul. It all needs to go together. And for those of you also know, we have this rule of threes. So I'm like all about Trinity and threes at all times. But if you have it all working together, it's okay. Here's the problem that I got stuck. Most of us that are in here, you know enough that you want to take care of yourself. You're a mom, or you work a lot, or you have things, so you're a perfectionist. So you think, I gotta work 60 hours a week at work, and that makes me great, right? And then you're like, oh yeah, then I gotta take care of my family, and my kids, and my friends, and then whatever time's left do you give for yourself. So that's the part where I had to start to rethink too. Self-care, I know we've talked about it at other seminars, and everybody's put it different ways. It's the most important thing. Because to me, who I am, God loves me the way I am, and I think that He doesn't want me to suffer. And I know like different religions have different views on this, so I don't want to offend anybody, but I think you're supposed to be the best, and I don't think you came on earth to suffer. And I know I've taken crap from people because I'm like, well, that's what you're supposed to do, or it's gonna help. It's never gonna help. Be truthful to yourself. And don't think about like all this list of things and you have to do it perfect. Do the best you can do for who you are. And that's self-care, I'm telling you. I have a course, I'm gonna be doing it. I already wrote it out, I have to record it. I don't like to do that part. But I'm working on it, because self-care, I think I have a blog about it. It's more than a bubble bath. Because I don't know about you, but if you would have asked me 2 or 3 years ago, self-care meant, oh, I went and got my nails done, which actually need done right now. Or I schedule a massage once every 6 months, right? Self-care, and I know I've spoke about it a little bit in the past, but self-care every day is important. Like if you're not okay, and again, I'm preaching it, okay, but I have to think of this every day too. But if you're not okay, how do you give back to everybody else? So as you go through, you kind of evaluate. And then I've coached some people locally, and we went through, and I always start, and then if you do the vision board, I always start, because you got a brain dump. Because if you sit there and you're in a quiet space, that's just between you and God. Write anything that comes to mind, right? My favorite thing. If money and time is no object, what would you do? That's why you got a magic wand. Don't forget that. And you know what? I don't want to bungee jump, because I do want to jump out of a plane. I have swam with sharks. So there's things that I'm okay with, not everything, but you might not have the same list. So if you're true to yourself, that self-care or whatever's on your heart, it's going to come. And sometimes we're programmed a totally different way, from your background, your cultures, all the crap we've had to deal with to this far in your age. So sometimes you put it on your heart and you're like, I can never be that. I can never do that. And that's why you should get a coach, right? And again, I might not be the right fit, but sometimes you need people in that community and that tribe to help you find that vision and to help you and support you. I like that Laura talked about transition, because I think sometimes I'm listening to a couple different people and taking some classes and have my own coach, but there's a lady there, and she was rather a nurse, And she went on to be a nurse practitioner. She has 2 little girls. She had a perfect life, right? Perfect. She worked, I don't know, 60, 70 hours a week. She's a nurse practitioner, makes X amount of money, has a pension, has retirement, and, you know, gonna retire in 20 some years. Everything's good. I don't know, right? I don't know. If that's good for you, amen. And I would always support you. I don't think we're supposed to do that. I just, like, I'm looking, and when you're true to yourself and life's not crazy, which is very hard, I just don't think we're all supposed to work like that. Because anytime somebody passes away close to you, you stop and you're like, man, life's short. And then we grieve the person and we think about it for a whole 10 minutes. Make a life change, like it's more important. And then if you don't do the life change, then, and again, that was my catalyst for trying to lose weight, then how am I gonna be here when I wanna be here? You know, I just wanted you to say, or I want you to know that I believe more than anything, no matter what your dreams are, is that it can come true. And I'm gonna say the thing that kind of started that a few years ago, most of you already know the story. No secret, I guess I am a lawyer, but I had a client, and I do family law and divorce, so I see people with all their chaos, which is really hard for me to step away sometimes. And usually I'm like, well, if money and time's not an object, what do you want to be? And so I had a lady in her 70s, I always forget, 72 or 74, and literally a 3rd or 4th marriage. And I'm like, same question to her. Most of the time it's people in their 30s or 40s, they want to start their own business, go back to college. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, all right, what college? All right, I know that person, here, call him, call her. And she said she wanted to be an astronaut. And those of you who've already heard the story, I mean, I've been asking that question for over 10 years, and it was always fine. I could figure it out, even with my kids, you know, like if I'm in juvenile court, I have kids. So when she said that, I thought, oh my God, you know, now what do I say? So I'm like, oh, that's good. And natural reaction, just like what Jesse said with networking, you're like, try to build questions off of it, right, to keep going. Well, what makes you happy? Why do you want to be an astronaut? And she doesn't necessarily want to be the astronaut. She wanted to feel lifeless. She wanted to see the stars. There's things and qualities about it. And I think a lot of times in life, that's the direction we go. Like you see this shiny gold star and you think, God, once I get there and I've done everything perfect, I'm gonna be this millionaire. Well, I hate to say it, even if you're a millionaire and you get that shiny star, you might not be happy. Now, I always say, give me $1 million and I'll prove you wrong. But I just think that, you know, as you're chasing things, chase things and do the things that make you feel good. Don't chase things, and I'm a parent, but don't chase things that your parents tell you. Don't chase things that your boss tell you. Like, you've got to have that relationship with you. And for me, if you're quiet and you can hear it, and you know, the reader said this is a gift. I don't think, I think anybody can have this. Because if you're quiet and you really are looking for direction, God will give it to you. And sometimes it's in writing. Sometimes it's in people. And again, those of you close to me, signs of 3, I used to say, God, I'm really stupid and slow. You have to show me 3 times. And then I'm driving down the road and there's a billboard. Random people. Oh, did you hear about blah, blah, blah? I'm like, that's only 2. It doesn't count. It doesn't count. And so most of my life, you know, and those of you know me, short version again, single mom most of my life, that's how I made decisions. That's how I did it. I was never afraid. I just did it. Because I was like, well, I guess that's, you know, if you fail, you fail, but you got to do it. And I've been through a lot, but I don't think it's over. And I don't want you to stop either. And, you know, and the good thing about this is that everybody's at different ages. Everybody's in different what is that called? Socio-economical, right?
Socioeconomic status.
That's it, right. So the demographics, I got that one. The demographics are diverse, but that's okay. But everybody still has the common denominator that number 1, that we're all women. Number 2, that you all want something or you wouldn't be here. Now, a couple of you I know how to drag people, but I'm sure once the person that was drugged here is now happy they were here because it's still, you got something out of it, right? And I just think that doing those little things are so much more important because if it's not words for me, and I'm okay with that, that's why I ask for more speakers because, you know, you can't stop learning. The reason I had the notes on the table is I like to do that. I know I've been doing it on my phone and people think I'm like texting or Facebooking, so I was like, oh, I better not do that anymore. But I think it's important, and I think that in order to get whatever you want in life, you gotta be true to yourself. You have to have self-care and believe that God's gonna lead you where you need to go. And I just, am very grateful for everybody here, because in my mind, you know, I always get stressed about it. I'm like, oh, there's not gonna be enough people. Carol will be like, I made a lot of food. She always makes a lot of food though, no matter how many people I tell her. But as I go through any seminar, whether I'm online, whether I'm in person, the people that are supposed to be here are here today. And so if you had a question and then you came, I'm glad. Even more than somebody who bought the ticket, because there's some people who bought tickets in January. I just can't tell you enough how important it is that to be your true self. Because again, life is way too short. And there's lots of tools to get there. And the biggest and the most scary step is to be honest with yourself, to start doing those things in daily practice. And again, I know Catherine's company's growing. That was an idea, I think, a few years ago.
Yeah, it wasn't even, I mean, it was a joke over coffee.
Right, right. And I think that, you know, that fills a lot of void, and, you know, for the girls, and it fills a lot. And so, and the reason I brought that up is because anything, even if it's a glimmer of a thought, it's there for a reason, right? And I just want you to give yourself the grace to not have to work 100 hours a week and think that's what makes it perfect, to give yourself the grace to be who you are, and to give yourself the grace that whatever's glimmering back here, you explore it a little bit. And that's whether you call me, you call Laura, you call Catherine, I'm just volunteering you ladies, Jessie, and Linda. But you find somebody that you can share that with, right? Because again, whatever that glimmer is, it might not be the end product, but as you're going along that journey, you're gonna discover about yourself, and it's gonna fulfill a lot of needs. And don't ever think you stop growing. I mean, everybody, like I said, is in different age groups and everything, but things change, seasons change, but you've got to be true to yourself. And with that, I really appreciate everybody here, and a lot more with the other business is going to be coming forward. That Best Version You is something that I do these things in person, and I'm always like, okay, well, we'll do it again next year. But hopefully we can do more, because online there's definitely that platform and that forum to be able to expand that. But I do it here because, like Carol, and neither one of us are running for office, we love Lake County, okay? And anything you could possibly want, for anybody who drove here, anything you possibly want is somewhere here. We've got wine, we've got farms, we've got malls, we've got Steel Mansion, we've got the lake.
Yeah.
Anything you could possibly want. The trails, I mean, again, not running for any kind of office, but anything you want is here. And I want to be able to get back here to Lake County, and I want the women of Lake County to be stronger. I want you to be able to go, and you know, I have friends in different areas, right? I have my lawyer friends, I have my nonprofit friends, I have board friends, I have church friends, I have neighbors, you know, and there's all high school friends. I have different groups of friends. But it's like, whoever I'm around, I want you to be the best you, and I want you to feel that and empowered as you go out and wherever, whatever organization you are. And so, I don't know, I just think that it's worth it to still do these in Lake County, even, you know, at the end of the day, if I'm tired, Renee's tired, or whatever, I just think it's worth it. And I think that, again, I know not everybody's from Lake County, not trying to run for office, but if you're here, it's worth supporting it, right? Because this is your neighbors, this is your colleagues. And even if you are not in the same social circle as somebody else that's here and you see them out, are you the kind of girl that's gonna put people down, or are you gonna be the kind of person that smiles when you walk by, right? Because I know, personally, I've really grown and changed a lot, and some days, I'm human, so I'm not perfect, I'm crabby, imagine that.
No.
And one of the things that I try to do when I'm crabby is, I've told you guys, like, that whole breathing and all that, and then you go in the car and I can barely count to 5 and I'm already mad or whatever, and I'm just trying that alone time. But what I've been trying to do is, if I'm crabby and I know I have to go interact with somebody, whether it's at the desk of, you know, a business or the store, give that person that I'm looking at or interacting a compliment. Because it's easier sometimes when you're crabby and you just look and you're like, oh, I love your earrings or whatever. They're gonna light up and then I'm not so crabby. So it's almost kind of selfish, right? Because it helps me. But I think if more you do that, it also helps you. And so there's always people out there to help support you. There's also terrible social media people, and there's always going to be them. But why can't we be more? Why can't the good be more? Why can't there be more of us? And when I say us, it's anybody that's going to be positive. And I liked this. I mean, I know that was the first time you did the social media story, but it's so true. There is, like, you read things on social media and you get so angry, and you're like, you know what? I've been trying to get better at it. I mean, I still swear like a truck driver to get mad, so I'm working on that. But I mean, I see the things on social media, and you know what? I'm like, let them go. I'll say a prayer for them. You know, because it's not my place to judge people. It's not my place to do that. And again, I'm telling you that right now because I'm in a good place. Doesn't mean I'm not cussing them out on other days. But I just, again, that's why that one's in there. And some of the things, again, everything has a reason as far as I live or be concerned. So some of the other speakers put things in your bags. The things that I put in your bags are in there for intentionally. Like, one of the things that are in there, not just your wand, but is your stress ball. I know you almost lost yours and you got it. Because there are times that you're stressful, right? And then a lot of it is, as my aunt used to say, beautification things, right? Like the face mask and different things, is because take time for you. And anytime you're doing that, I want you to think about self-care for yourself. Again, it's not just a bubble bath. We should be doing self-care every day. I mean, I don't know if you guys look up like motivational speakers, or you talk, you know, or look. All of these people have this regimented routine every day, okay? And so you've got to make that what it looks like for you. For me, I would love to sleep in. It doesn't matter. Like, I don't do an alarm. Like, even that morning we had to get up, I don't even know, 4:45, some crazy time. I don't do an alarm, and I don't know. It's been like that for probably 8 years maybe. So I would like to sleep in, but my thing is I want to wake up when I feel rested, kind of thing, right? And then they always say to have prayers and gratitude and all this stuff in the morning. And one time I wrote down all the stuff you're supposed to do in the morning, like your prayers, your gratitude, working out, getting ready, taking a shower. I mean, and then plus you add family and like it's amazing. Yeah, and I haven't even got to work yet, right? So you have to do what works for you. I hope I don't get gypped, and you know, I'm just being honest, but a lot of times I say my prayers and I go through my list of people, and like, maybe I'm taking my shower, maybe I'm doing my hair, you know, or I'm driving, and there's time for meaningful prayer too, but you have to do whatever works for you, but get in that routine because you deserve that. And also, as you're winding down for the end of the night, I know they say put your phone away, all those things. There's a lot of us that look at our phones for work or for encouragement. We're not looking to buy something or text somebody. But when you're doing that, again, be respectful of your own mind. Like, give yourself time to wind down. And I mean, my son is grown now, and I know that any time after I put him to bed, before I fell asleep, there was no time. Like, I knew how to fall asleep the second he went out, you know? And you'll get more time. Trust me, it happens. It takes a while. But so cherish the little minutes you have to yourself and just be, you know, thoughtful and intentional of those. But again, try to take care of yourself. And the biggest thing for self-care to me is gratitude. And so the teacher side of me comes out, because I did have on the agenda the gratitude thing, is that I do have something to pass out about gratitude. And I didn't want everybody to like get buried in it. So what I was gonna do is just pass these out, and these are different ways to show gratitude. And again, you know, thank you. Can you pass these back? Sure. Gratitude can be just like, to me, your prayers of gratitude, I could be like, thank you, right? Oh.
Thank you.
Whatever, you know, there's no formal way. Just like I said, if we did all these morning things we're supposed to do, it might be till noon for some people. You have to create your own system or your path for yourself, making sure you take care of yourself. But the biggest thing of gratitude is, there's different ways. Oh, she has extra ones too. You can do a journal, you can do a walk, you can do writing, different conversations. I know those are different examples that are there. But what I wanted everybody to do before you leave, and you don't even have to share it, is just take a second and write three things you're grateful for. Because no matter how bad things are, and I know this sounds like very optimistic, but it's true. No matter how bad things are, there's always at least three things you can be grateful for. Now, I'm trying, again, to do that myself. And sometimes when you're angry, the best I got is, okay, I can see right now, right? Or maybe I can speak, or maybe I can, well, not limp, and I'm walking. But sometimes the simplest things we take granted for, those are the things you have to be grateful for because you're not in the best place. But by the time you get through that, a lot of times it's going to help you also to get to that place. So I just want you to know that since you're here, and the vendors and everybody that's here, for me, you're going to be added on my prayer list. And I know that big things are going to happen for anybody who's here. And if you look for that and you really want it, there's people out there to help you. And I just want you to be the best you. And I want this community to grow. And when I say community, I mean it where, even in spirit, it doesn't mean like we have to have weekly meetings, monthly meetings, and you're calling in. But I want you to feel that there is a lot of people when you start to feel alone. Because sometimes, especially in certain workplaces, you can have that good spirit, and it's just, you're on the outs immediately. And then start thinking about it. Is that where you want to be? Is that the best place for you? And again, I'm not trying to start a revolution, everybody stops their job or starts a new career, but you got to do what's right for you because you deserve that. And don't let anybody ever tell you any different. And sometimes the people that you think should be encouraging you, whether it's a spouse or your family, your mom, your dad, or whoever, sometimes they're not always the people to be that person in your corner to encourage you, and that's okay too. Because we're here, everybody's human. They do the best they can, but if you need more than that, then go get more than that, because there are people out there that will help you and support you. So the three things that you wrote down, again, I wanted you to do that for you. And as you're writing that down, we will pull the last two names, I guess, from the drawing. And then Renee's gonna also hand out these little surveys to see if we can anyway prove today. And if you don't know how to reach me, I think you should, right? Between phone, the law office, and internet. But if there's ever anything, or you have an idea, like you're like, hey, let's do this summit. Because at one point, we wanted to do like a women's weekend, and I almost feel like sometimes we cram so much in, and you're like all jazzed up, and you're like, yeah, it probably would have sunk in a little deeper if we had more than 4 hours or what have you. So if that's something you're interested in, let me know too. All right? Let's see. Beth Brown.
Thank you.
All right. And the last one is Crystal. Oh, yay. All right. Well, we ended at 3:30, and I know one thing at 3:30 when we first started, and then we were going to go to 4, but I think this is good to end this way. That way you have enough time if you still wanted to, as Carol mentioned, walk around. A few of the vendors are still here, and I just appreciate everybody taking the time today. And you can drop off the surveys at the table by Renee. All right? So thank you all for coming.